Welcome to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing, founder of the Reiki Business Collective and creator of the Build Your Reiki Business program, sending blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business. Greetings, welcome, and thanks so much for tuning in to this week's episode of the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. I'm Christian of Standing Stones Healing, and as always, I'm grateful to have you joining in, so thank you. In this week's episode, we're talking about finding time for your Reiki business. But first, I want to make sure to invite you to an upcoming free Reiki business workshop that I am hosting. I'm actually going to be offering 3 free Reiki business workshops coming up in the next couple of months. And the first one is on Friday, October the 6th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on Zoom. You can register for that workshop at standingstoneshealing.com/Reiki Biz Kit. Yes, the same website where you can get the free Reiki Biz Kit. I just made it easy on myself and put the registration form on that website. So if you cannot join live, please know that yes, indeed, all registrants do get the replay. So of course, the link to do that is down below. standingstoneshealing.com/Reiki Biz Kit for the first of those free workshops. The first one is about, is it time to start your Reiki business? So how do you know? We're going to talk all about it in that workshop on Friday, October the 6th. I hope that you will join us. And again, if you can't be there live, yes, all registrants get the replay. Thank you. But this week, we're talking about finding time for your Reiki business. You know, when we think about starting a Reiki business, we can think about all of the time that it is going to take to start a Reiki business. And then once we start a Reiki business, we can say, oh, this takes so much time. How do I ever find the time? You may be thinking this yourself. You might have kids, and you might be saying, how in the world do I find time for my Reiki business when I've got kids? You may have a full-time job, and you may be saying, how do I ever find time for my Reiki business while I've got a full-time job? You may have other things going on in your life. Maybe, for instance, you have activities, hobbies, you're the president of a board, you are on your city council, whatever it might be. You may very well be thinking, how do I find time for my Reiki business? You may also be feeling frustrated. Oh, I want to start my Reiki business, or I want to work on my Reiki business. I've started my Reiki business, but I just have so much trouble finding the time to work on my Reiki business. How do I do it? How do I do all of the things I do and start or build my Reiki business with all of the time that I don't have? Well, if this is you, you are in good company, because this is a lot of people. So first, know that you are not alone. I want to encourage you to, when we talk about this idea of finding time for our Reiki business, I want to encourage you to maybe reconsider the ways in which you might approach the idea of time and the idea of finding time. Because the truth is that we don't actually find time. And if you think about it, we actually can't find time because there's no extra time. We all have the same amount of time. And we can't create time in terms of making more of it. What we have is what everyone else has. And so when we talk about finding time, it's not actually about finding time, because we can't find more time. We can't create more time. But what we can do is that we can carve out time in our own schedules, in our own lives. And so I really want to encourage you that when you think about time and finding time, I want to encourage you to maybe reframe first the way in which you think about time and the way in which you think about your own time, to consider that maybe it's not so much about finding more time, because really that's kind of impossible, but rather it's about carving out time in your own life and in your own schedule for your Reiki business. And really, carving out time is all about priorities and what our priorities are for our time. Now, here's the thing. If your Reiki business isn't a priority in your life right now, that's okay. And if finding time, carving out time for your Reiki business isn't a priority for you right now, that's okay. It's important, though, to recognize that and to honor that. And so if you are looking at your time and you're saying, right now, my kids are a greater priority than my Reiki business, okay, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that, but it's really important to know where your priorities lie so that you can allocate your time in the right way. So the first thing I want to encourage you to do is to get really clear on what your priorities are. And if your Reiki business is not a priority right now, then stop stressing. Stop stressing about finding the time or carving out the time or creating the time for your Reiki business if it's just not a priority. Let that go. It's okay to let it go. So focus in first and foremost on what your priorities are so that you can allocate time to them, so that you can put the focus on what your priorities are and spend your time on your own personal priorities. And if when you contemplate what your priorities are, a Reiki business is not one of your priorities right now, then it's okay to prioritize other things first. But if you are saying, well, Christian, I want to be a parent and I want to work on my Reiki business. I want to go to my kids' softball games and I want to build my Reiki business. I want to be the president of my city council and I want to have a Reiki business. Then okay, yes, you can indeed do all of those things. I want to encourage you, if that is the case, to really make a commitment and to say, yes, I am building my Reiki business and I am committing to my Reiki business. And you may even want to say that out loud to yourself right now. I am committing to my Reiki business. I am committed to my Reiki business. Because here's the thing. When we say we commit to something, we often think that commitment is a 100%, I am all in 100% of the time kind of thing. But that is not the case. We can indeed commit to something 100% for 50% of the time, for 10% of the time. Now, what I mean by that is that we can make a commitment to be all in 100% during our 10% of our time that we are working on our Reiki business, for instance. Or let's say you are 100% committed to attending your kids' softball game. Great. During that softball game, you are 100% committed to watching that softball game. But when you are at work the next day, you are not 100% committed to watching your kids' softball game. My guess is that you're not watching game tape replays while you are in a meeting with your boss. And so we can commit 100% to something during that thing and at that time, but it doesn't mean that we're not committed to it if we are doing other things at different times. So what I'm saying here is that if you want to be building your Reiki business, but you're feeling challenged with finding the time, but you're committed to it, you really want to do it, then I want to encourage you to create time for your Reiki business that you are committed to 100%. And so that means that you may be saying, okay, I'm committing to my Reiki business. I want to do this. And I also want to be the parent, have a full-time job, fill in the blank for all of the things that you want to do. So what I encourage you to do is to find a block of time to commit to your Reiki business. Maybe that is 6 o'clock on a Friday, and that is your Reiki business time. And you are committing to that time every single Friday from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock or whatever it might be. That is your Reiki business time. Can you commit 100% to that time to working on your Reiki business? Because we think that a 100% commitment has to look like being 100% committed 100% of the time. But commitment can look like Fridays from 6 o'clock to 9 o'clock, and you are 100% committed to those 3 hours for building your Reiki business. So I want to encourage you to ask yourself, can I commit 100% to a chunk of time every week or every month? Whatever the case might be for you and for building your own Reiki business, can you commit to a block of time? And so can you commit to, 3 hours a week on a Friday evening? Maybe ship the kids off to grandma's for a few hours and use that time to be working specifically on your Reiki business. Make a list of all of the things during the week that you want to be doing during that Friday from 6 to 9, and then boom, 100%. Friday from 6 to 9, all other distractions are gone. You are 100% committed to your Reiki business at that time. That's no less powerful than being 50% committed 100% of the time. As a matter of fact, it may very well be more powerful, because when you are 100% committed to that Friday from 6 to 9, that means you are buckling down, you are getting things done, you are moving forward, rather than being half committed. Something came up. Can't work on my Reiki business right now. Oh well, I've got other time that I can set aside to work on it. That time comes, 50% committed. Well, maybe not right now. You see how it goes, right? When you're 50% committed 100% of the time, the chances are good that you're going to have things come up that mean that you're not working on your Reiki business. But if you are 100% committed to just a small block of time, then you're going to get things done. So I want to first encourage you to create a chunk of time where you can be 100% committed. And even if that is just 1 hour per week, know that in that 1 hour, you're going to be moving forward with your Reiki business. Maybe that 1 hour a week is all that you get and all that you can carve out, but indeed, you're going to be able to move forward with your Reiki business, and you're not going to be worrying about finding the time, because you have the time set aside specifically for your Reiki business. So I want to encourage you to consider finding some chunks of time that you might be able to set aside, and to do it consistently. Consistency is so important when we're talking about finding time, creating time, carving out time to devote to our Reiki business. Consistency is so important. And so if you can consistently devote a half an hour every single day at a specific time, great. If that's too much, can you consistently devote Fridays from 6 to 9? No, too much time. Okay, how about Friday from 6 to 7? Can you consistently do that and commit to it and show up 100% during that 1 hour? Life happens. We all get busy. We all have things going on. We all have things come up, unexpected stuff that happens. And so, of course, all of us have things going on, have demands on our time, have commitments, relationships, stuff that we got to do. It's part of life. And when we can make our Reiki business a priority in terms of committing to it, it's a powerful message that even if the water heater breaks, or the parent gets sick, or the kid is experiencing challenges that we need to address, even through all of that, if we prioritize our Reiki business in terms of that commitment, then we are going to be able to find time for our Reiki business no matter what life throws at us. Always, we're going to have demands on our time. Always, life is going to happen, because that's what life does. And if we can commit to even 1 hour per week, 100%, then we can indeed move forward on our Reiki business. When we think about setting aside chunks of time to work on our Reiki business, oftentimes we feel like we have to set aside a big chunk of time. Well, Christian, I can't work on my Reiki business because I can't find an hour a week. I'm so busy, I can't find an hour a week. I want to first encourage you to revisit those priorities and to ask yourself, is building my Reiki business even a priority at this time? It's okay if it's not, and release judgment of yourself for it not being a priority. It's absolutely okay, but be honest with yourself. And if it's not a priority, then just let it go. Let it go. I'll say more about that in a moment. But if it is a priority, if you are saying, yes, I want to build my Reiki business, and I just don't know how I can find an hour a week, I can't do that, then for sure know that you can find smaller bits of time throughout the week. We have this sense that we need to have big chunks of time in order to move forward on a project, a business, a craft, fixing up the house, whatever it might be. We seem to have this tendency that we have to have big blocks of time to work on it, and that if we can't find a few hours during our day to be able to work on it, then we just can't even start. But that's not true. Your Reiki business, just like a project, just like something that you want to be doing, doesn't need to be done all in one big chunk of time. If you can find small bits of time here and there, those little bits of time do add up. And so don't discount the power of the small. Don't discount the power of small bits of time that add up into big chunks of time. And so what that means is that if you are challenged to carve out, to create, to find a block of a couple of hours in your week, can you find 20 minutes today? Can you find 20 minutes tomorrow? 20 minutes the next day? In 3 days, there you have 1 hour. And so those 20 minutes are just as powerful as sitting down for 1 full hour, finding 1 full hour. The important thing here is the idea of consistency. When we are building our Reiki business, I have seen this over the years again and again and again and again and again from Reiki business owners who will start and stop and start and stop. They'll start their Reiki business and they're all gung-ho. They're posting like crazy. They're in the groups. They're getting the word out. They're hanging flyers. They're talking to people and they are in it. And then a couple of months later, life happens, as life does. Their posting gets less and less. Their creation gets less and less. Their discussions about Reiki gets less and less. They stop hanging out flyers in their community. They stop having conversations. They really just pretty much stop Reiki business activity because, things happened, life got in the way, and they let things fall by the wayside. Now, there is no judgment here if that happens because life does happen. And what happens then is that a couple of months down the road, all right, they're back in a different place in life. They're feeling good. They're ready to get back into working on their Reiki business. And now they have to get started from a standstill. And we know that an object at rest tends to stay at rest, just like an object in motion tends to stay in motion. And so what that means is that they go to start their Reiki business back up again, start their activity, having conversations, hanging flyers, talking to friends, posting, whatever it might be, but it's hard because they've lost momentum and they're trying to start back up again. And they do, maybe they get going again and they do it for a month and then, life happens. They drop off, they stop. All of this stopping and starting is actually way harder than just slowing down and continuing to go. So when you start and stop your Reiki business, life gets in the way, things happen. It is actually harder to get started again than it is to slow down, but to keep moving. And so finding time for your Reiki business is something that I want to encourage you to continue to do even when life happens, even if it's just little bits here and there, because an object in motion tends to stay in motion so that when you're ready to really get back into the swing of things with your Reiki business, it is so much easier to get yourself fired up and moving forward from a walk or even a crawl than it is from a dead stop. What so often happens is that Reiki business owners will be off at a sprint, they'll come to a dead stop, and then they're going to try to sprint again from that dead stop. And that is way harder than just slowly and surely moving forward. So consistency is really key when it comes to building our Reiki business and when it comes to finding the time for our Reiki business. And so if we can consistently set aside 20 minutes at a specific time per day, that is way more powerful than busting out a whole week's worth of Reiki business work full time and then doing nothing for a few months. So that slow, consistent pace is going to be way more powerful than the short bursts that don't last. So when it comes to finding the time, I'm going to encourage you that yes, because life happens and gets in the way, to maintain some kind of consistency with the amount of time that you are devoting to your Reiki business, with maybe the days in which you're doing it, the time, maybe every Sunday at 10 o'clock is your Reiki business time. And that is when you are practicing sessions with family members. And you're doing that for 1 hour every single Sunday, rain or shine, no matter what. And during that time, you are 100% committed to your Reiki business. That indeed is Reiki business success. And that indeed is going to lead to more and more Reiki business success and may indeed lead to magically finding more time for your Reiki business. Now, there are two more things I want to encourage you on for finding time for your Reiki business. And one of those is to have a plan for what you're going to do with your time. And so, like I mentioned earlier, if you're setting aside 1 hour on one particular day every week to write down all of the things throughout the week that come to your mind that you want to do during your Reiki business time, to make a note of them, write them down, and to know what you're going to be doing during that time. So you're not sitting down and saying, okay, this is my Reiki business time. What do I do now? Nope, you have a plan for that time. Having a plan for your time is really important as a Reiki business owner. But it's especially important if your time is limited and if you're struggling to find the time for your Reiki business and you're struggling to carve out time. So having a plan for that precious time when you get it is going to be essential. And so make a list of the things that you want to do, that you plan to do during that time, so that when that time comes, you're not saying, okay, here's my time, what do I do? Or even worse, oh, I don't have a plan for my time, I don't know what I'm going to do, I'll just go out to dinner with my friends instead. Nope, be planning throughout the week how you want to be spending that time so that you know what you're doing as soon as you sit down to do it. So plan that time. And I also want to encourage you when it comes to social media. I talk about this in the Build Your Reiki Business program, but I want to encourage you to be really mindful of your use of social media, especially during your Reiki business time. And so during your Reiki business time, I really want to encourage you to be very mindful of how you are using social media and to have a clear plan for your Reiki business time that you're setting aside of how you're using social media. In the Build Your Reiki Business program, I call this Power Hour. I talk all about using Power Hour in a very specific, focused way. So getting in and getting your stuff done on social media in 1 hour for your Reiki business in order to manage your use. So I talk all about it in the Build Your Reiki Business program. But Power Hour is one tactic that I have personally used in order to make sure that I am getting the things done that I need to get done on social media without it draining my time and becoming a burden on my Reiki business time. So I'm sending lots of blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business, finding the time, carving out the time for your Reiki business. How do you carve out time for your Reiki business when you're doing all the things, the parenting and the job and the et cetera, et cetera? Join us in the Reiki Business Collective and tell us all about it. Facebook.com/groups/Reiki Biz. And of course, you can learn more about the Build Your Reiki Business program at standingstoneshealing.com/build. And yes, indeed, of course, I want to again invite you to join us for the free October 6th Reiki Business Workshop. Is it time to start your Reiki business? How do you know? You can register for that at standingstoneshealing.com/Reiki Biz Kit. Well, whether you have started your Reiki business or not, I'm sending lots of blessings and best wishes for your Reiki business. Thanks for tuning in to the Build Your Reiki Business podcast. Please like, share, subscribe, and send to a friend. Learn more about the Build Your Reiki Business program at standingstoneshealing.com/build. Sending blessings and best wishes to your Reiki business.